everybody, and welcome to another DotP Wednesday Roundtable. We're down another man, one more week in a row, but that's all right because nobody likes the Grand Wazoo around here anyway, is what I heard.
I heard that too.
I'm Cyphus. I'm sitting here with Flubb with two B's.
Hey, man.
And of course, everybody's favorite Internet Explorer podcaster.
Yeah, I'm Ursinity. Big fan of Microsoft Edge, or whatever it's called, the new one.
Oh, you see, and I thought I had heard that you were like a diehard Internet Explorer podcaster.
Originally we started as an Internet Explorer podcast, but then, as it happens, we transitioned into being a Microsoft browser podcast, which encompasses both the OG Internet Explorer and the new Microsoft Edge.
So I get a lot of shit because I actually use Microsoft Edge because it was just like what was down there. So periodically, I mean, I'm recording this right now through Google Chrome because Chrome is superior for things that like really matter.
Yeah.
But because it's so easily accessible, and for a long time I didn't pin Chrome to the taskbar. I click on Edge to go, Google something real quick, but I get a ton of shit for it.
I've heard that Microsoft Edge honestly isn't that bad. I use it by accident occasionally, but at home I still have Windows 7 because I hate Windows 10, and so I avoid it unless I'm at work, and then I have to use Windows 10. But I'm not well versed in Microsoft Edge. I'm just happy you didn't say like, oh yeah, I actually use Opera, because that's like,
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not going to be using Opera anytime soon. Yeah. I definitely, it's been a long time since I used Internet Explorer, but Edge in particular, yeah, I've definitely, clicked on that thing just for a quick Google,
Yeah,
it's there. It's accessible.
It's like people that are like, I use Bing because I just don't care. It's like, you don't use Bing. Like, let's be honest here. We're adults. Nobody uses Bing unless they,
Microsoft would love to continue to believe that everybody uses Bing, but they definitely don't.
I would be interested to know how many people use Bing. Like, I assume it's just old people that, like, if it's set as their default, like, search engine, somehow they just, like, accept it, and, like, that's just what life is like. Like, they're just completely confused when somebody says, oh, Google it. Yeah, anyway.
Let's see. I had to know. So Google's market share is around 66%. So that other 33% is getting divvied up somewhere. It looks like Bing is number 2. They're above Yahoo. They're the nearest.
Well, Yahoo's like dying. The other day I was helping my mom with something, and we use Google Chrome, even on my downstairs computer that is a Mac, and she, in the Google Chrome search bar, typed in Google, and she's like, oh, well, I need to get to the main thing. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't think you were like 90 years old, but apparently you are.
Every once in a while when I'm using Chrome, just because I do occasionally use Edge, and here is the disadvantages. Every once in a while I'll be using Chrome, and I'll start to type Google and go, oh wait, I'm already there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I guess that, as always, we turned into the podcast that we claimed we weren't going to be. I didn't want to talk too much shit on Bing because we might end up having one of their representatives on the show here in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, I have used Bing before, and honestly, there's no difference. Also, what was it? Bing Flights used to be really good because if you were comparing flights, they would give you extra money, basically. I remember that being I've read some podcast I was listening to. I think it was actually the Rooster Teeth podcast. They were saying that the only time they use Bing is anytime they need to fly. They refine the flight on Bing. I don't know if that's still a thing, but a couple of years ago, I remember that was a actual profitable thing, was just to get your flights through Bing instead of Google or anything else.
Yeah, I believe it. That's how companies like that ever get a foothold, is by developing some type of working relationship with another company that forces you to have to actually use it. That's their only hope.
Honestly, the only reason I use Google is A, Chrome, obviously, but B, I use Gmail and I just check it frequently, so I just have Google as a page open often, it's just there. So yeah.
So I was gonna say the guy that we're thinking about having on from Bing is I don't know if you guys remember a while back they tried to use and I don't know the specifics on it, but he's going to kind of explain it to us. But basically, used search activity to try to predict who was going to win the international six.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's cool.
And I guess they got like pretty crazily close to the actual like order of the actual ranking of the teams, the final ranking of the teams. So we're going to have him on to talk about like how they predicted that, and then how they'll predict it again going forward.
That's pretty cool. I wish I like knew anything about computers and like how that stuff works to like really understand that conversation, but it sounds like interesting.
It sounds like it'll be good.
Yeah.
I don't really know that much about statistics in general. Like whether it's, being computer savvy is not like as big a deal for me as being like statistics dumb, I guess. I can read a graph, but like if you're talking about like true statistics that people do with that, I mean what they're doing right there, that sounds really cool though.
Well, and just the way that somehow they're using, and I've heard, so I can't remember what book it is. Maybe it's a Malcolm Gladwell book even, but talking about like the intelligence of crowds. They use this. There's this old story of where they had a crowd guess the weight of this ox somewhere at a county fair, and the mean guess of the crowd was closer to the actual weight of the ox than any one individual was. So I wonder if there's some element of that theory that's kind of going into play, that the wisdom of crowds is possible to glean through our search engine results when it comes to things like the international even. So I don't know. I'm curious to see I'm curious to learn the results, like how close they were, and see how the hell they did it, because that's pretty fascinating if they are able to do that.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I know we have like an actual topic for the show, Cyphus, and I know like this is not at all pre-planned, but I was just fiddling around. Have you guys gone to the new Dota buff?
Oh no, I haven't.
So now if you go on Dota buff, people were talking about this on Discord earlier, but I was at work and I wasn't paying attention. If you go to Dota buff, you go to your profile, it shows roles and lanes, and it gives you like your percentage of games where you support versus the percentage of games you play core, and then your respective like how many times you play in the jungle in each of the given positions. And it gives a bunch of other new bits of new information that are honestly really cool. You don't even need to have like their paid service for it, I don't think. And now like it shows you if you're in a stack, it shows you. Oh, you don't have it?
I don't have I see what you're talking about, but I don't have Pro. So you're right. It's and it goes for the individual person too. Like I didn't even notice that, but that's really interesting that it shows.
Let me see if I can pull up yours. So like for me, for instance, when I'm because I have Dota Buff Plus, and it's a good service for what it's worth. For like under roles and lanes, I'm 52% support and 48% core. So I'm almost exactly 50-50 playing the two overarching roles. And then like it shows me in all my recent games, it shows me like party Q 5 stack, party Q 5 stack, party Q 3 stack, 2 stack, unranked 5 stack, stuff like that.
So wait, what were give me your stats one more time?
52% support, 48% core. Of that, let's see. So this is actually how it gets deeper in detail. Of my 52% support games, which would be like whatever it is, I have like 3,500 games. It is 13% or 72% safe lane support, 13% mid lane support, 8% roaming support, and 8% off lane support, and 0% jungle. And then of my core games, which are 48% of my total games, it is 54% mid lane, 29% safe lane, 15% off, 2% jungle, and that's it. So I just like statistics. This is pretty sick.
Yeah, wow, it's amazing. I'm so glad you told me about this. So
Flubb. Okay. So Flubb, I will actually, here's your stats. Of your games, you are 65% of the time a core, 35% of the time a support.
That doesn't make any sense though. Like I'm always supporting.
No. It's also games that they were able to analyze. So like when I'm looking at my statistics of the unanalyzed roles that I have, it's somewhere around unanalyzed lane. So about half my games. So 642 matches have not been analyzed
Yeah.
on my account. So I mean, it's probably not taking into account all of your roles.
Yeah, it may not take it into account games like past a certain period of time either. Anyway, of your 65% core, 74% of that is mid lane, 20% is off lane, and only 5% is safe lane, and 0% jungle. And then of your 35% of your total games are support. Of those 35%, 66% safe lane, 17% roaming, 9% off, 6% mid lane, 3% jungle. So regardless of how accurate this is, it is an interesting bit of stats. Also, we have a 47% win rate out of 240 games. Fun fact.
Wow. I feel bad like analyzing this and looking at it while we're trying to do a show.
I just think it's interesting. I honestly just stumbled upon it, and like maybe we could have like actually made this into like a real segment, but whatever. Because if we talk about this next week, it's old news.
Yeah. Well, from recently analyzed games, I've got 85% of my games have been core.
Yeah.
And only 15% support.
Oh, okay. It shows it to me now. I just did an update or something for some reason.
Oh.
But what is really cool I just saw is it tells you how many people were in your party when you were in that match.
Yeah.
That's holy crap. That's cool. Like I don't know. Maybe that's someone else that's not as big a deal, but to like know like your percentage on because I've like always wondered, like I win a lot. It seems like whenever I play with 3 people. I don't know about you guys, but I've always wanted to know like that percentage, winning with 3 people and compared to winning with like a full stack.
I win most when I'm in a 2 stack. In my experience, I win like. I actually think I'm on like a 6-game party winning streak or something like that because I've been playing in 2 stacks, which I stopped doing for a while. And when you're in a 2 stack, you can just take over a game, especially because like I've been playing with Proud and Skrunk mostly when I play in 2 stacks for ranked. And me and Proud both have notably lower solo MMR. So if we're paired with all solo people, the game is like way easier. And if we're paired with a 3 stack, then like it's fine because it's just like, it's just stacks for stacks. But 3 and 5 are when it gets a little more difficult. Because 5 is more serious.
And I win way more with the 3 stack.
Yeah, I like 2. And maybe I like 2, which is why most people hate that 2 stacks are in solo queue. But I'm a big fan of playing in a 2 stack and just like taking over games. But also it depends on like the disparity between your solo and party MMR. Like if your party MMR is higher, then that would make sense that you wouldn't have the dynamic that like me and Proud have been enjoying, I guess. But especially like learning a new role, which is the perfect transition. Since I'm like relearning how to play mid, I'm not the host. I'm sorry. I should have let you do that transition.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I would have sat here and talked about fucking stats all goddamn show.
Yeah, but now that I'm the mid player for Ham, I need to like relearn mid because I've been a support for like probably a year or more, like in solo queue and in our team. So it's nice to play those games where I'm like 500 points lower than my regular MMR because like I can kind of relax and like ease myself into playing that position. So on that note, that's our topic.
Yeah, I guess I'll kick her off like with having to switch roles. I'm one of the folks in the the shitty 2K range that looked at my games and felt like wow, I'm tired of not being able to have an impact on the game as a support. And I know there are plenty of arguments that you can, and obviously you do. I believe that you do, but more often than not, I found myself feeling like if I'd been in a carry position, at the very least, if the carry fucked up, it was me that was the carry that fucked up. So I started transitioning over to a core position, and primarily the safe lane, a little bit the mid. Like even just looking at this, 60% of my core games are safe lane games, and like I said, over my recently analyzed matches, I've got 85% of them as cores. And I don't know. I feel like I know that I primarily play support. Whenever you look at like my most played heroes of all time, my top 5 are Lion, Shadow Shaman, Crystal Maiden, Keeper of Light, and Dazzle. And if anybody who listened to this show for a long period of time knows that was pretty much what I was spamming the entire time. But the swap over to core, I don't know. I just felt like it had to. I feel like it had to happen at some point, and in a lot of ways, I feel like it made me a better support.
I agree completely. I mean, Flub, you can attest and speak on this for sure, but both of us having played Dota for a very long time, even like it's funny that we would say that someone like Cyphus hasn't played Dota for that long because they have like thousands of hours and like multiple years into the game. But relatively, Flub and I, in our long years of abuse, we have both switched between roles often, and I know that's something I've always advocated for sure, Cyphus, in that like I became a much better support after playing carry, and vice versa. But then again, like some of my habits after playing carry for one of the really early iterations of me and Flub's team. And then like once I went to support, then I was playing a greedier support because I had I had retrained my carry instincts. So sometimes it can hurt you, but to be fair, that also made it so that like as a support, even though I was being a little too greedy, I wasn't losing out on instances to be when like there was appropriate amount of greed, I wasn't missing last hits and stuff. Because it's very easy to get stuck in that support mindset and like stagnate in your play because you just think, oh, I'm the support, I'm gonna buy the wards. Oh, whoops, I died, but I'm a support, so it's okay. Like, you know, you need to variety is the spice of life, right? And that's why you need to train. It's like going to school, right? When you go to school, you don't just study one thing, right? They make you study everything because everything teaches you how to do other things, right? So, you know, you can't just study math. You got to study science and history, etc., and that all influences and it teaches you to critically think and think through situations. So it's like that with Dota, right? You can't only ever play mid or only ever play support because, you know, you need to have the holistic experience.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Flub,
No, sorry about that, Cyphus. I was just about to say that, like, I feel like whenever I like start telling people on what to play, I never really want to give people advice the first like year that they are playing Dota because they just need to figure it out for themselves. It's kind of like I wouldn't even say it's like school. It's like when you get a job sometimes. A lot of times they'll tell you like the certain steps of like what you're supposed to do and certain things that are supposed to happen, but like they really don't tell you that much. They kind of just like throw you out into the world, or at least in my experience, they don't really tell you that much. And you kind of like you get to a certain point, and if you get like trouble, you can like talk to people or go online and like figure stuff out in Dota. But when it's kind of like the same with your job, you go to your manager or you go to a person who knows a little bit about where your position is, and you get some advice from there. But it's not really too much advice. It's kind of like, all right, just deal with it and kind of experience this, and then you'll be able to like move forward once you have the ability to think about it. And it's important to get like that general knowledge. And with that first year too, like I encourage people just like play all the heroes. Like, yeah, you're not going to know all of them. I don't want you to know all of them. I just want you to know like the capability of what they can do. And it's the same thing with positions. You need to know what the capability of that position is able to do to be able to outthink them. Dota is very much like chess. If you don't know what the other person is capable of in the scenario, then you're going to lose every time, because strategy is about not being surprised, about getting the upper hand and understanding what their potential is in a situation.
Well, and being able to just relate to the other position so that you can communicate effectively with the rest of your team. I mean, to understand, you know, I mean, at our level, you guys can speak to what goes on at higher levels, but at our level, you still have the mindset, like everybody has been in this mindset since I've begun the game, that mid is supposed to be ganking no matter who it is that's mid, no matter what, you know, how their lane went or how your lane went. Mid is supposed to gank, and they're supposed to gank by like 5 or 6 minutes in. You're supposed to just drop everything, leave that lane, and get into another lane and get a kill. And you know, as I've learned just from playing with you guys, from, you know, playing a ton of Dota over the years and watching, you know, better players than myself, you know, I recognize, yeah, like there's, you know, if Medusa is more or less free farming a mid lane, maybe I just want her to sit there and keep doing that. You know, maybe I want to rotate a support from the safe lane to go gank the mid instead. There's just this mentality, and I think it generates from a lack of experience in other positions and a lack of, maybe even just a lack of motivation to learn more effectively what's going on at higher levels in those positions.
Yeah, there is almost a burdensome level of knowledge that's required to, obviously, as we talk about all the time, to play Dota in the first place is it's a grand task, right? There's just so many things to learn, so many little things, so many large things. And once you kind of have had success in a role, and I guess, let's just use some random theoretical person, for example. Like, let's say there's some 4K player that has got to 4K playing support, and he pretty much only playing support. Let's say on his Dota profile, he'd be like 90-10 support. That person, and this is a mentality thing, so it could be different for different people, but that person, or anybody for that matter, could easily see mentality-wise the burden of saying, oh, well, I want to learn carry, but if I'm going to learn carry, I'm going to have to, lose a ton of games because I will just be playing, I've only played support for so long or whatever. And so that burden of being oh, God, I've only finally begun to, hit a good level of play or hit a personal goal of whatever your next 1,000 mark is or whatever recent gains you've had. It's ominous to be all right, I've made it to 5,000 MMR playing support, and now I want to be a mid player, but I'm not confident enough to be playing mid against other 5K mids. But what is the alternative, right? So it's easy to get stuck in your ways and say, oh, well, I got here like this and I don't want to drop. So I guess I just have to play support a lot. And then, you'll get stuck in your ways, and sure, there's always going to be exceptions. And some people are just, they only like playing one thing. But, to learn about Dota, you really do need to shift through the roles over time, of course, not necessarily every game.
I actually experienced this just today. It's actually funny that this is our conversation. The game that I played no less than an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, I was playing Rubik, and I picked up Rubik because we needed some stun and stuff like that. But not to get too much into the game, they picked up a Brood Mother, and we picked up a SK to counteract her and just put her up, put the SK versus the Brood Mother to just stop that lane in general. And the player wasn't really strong with it, but he was having a little bit of a tough time. He wasn't quite understanding how to stop that position, and it's okay, but I needed to rotate to help him out to get the kills, because I was going up off lane because we wanted to aggro try them, since the Brood Mother, we picked up a Slark, and Brood Mother is gonna eat Slark alive. So the Slark immediately, as soon as I left lane, was just pinging the map and was GG, we lost. Rubik isn't helping me farm. And obviously we all have that guy in our pubs, but that's a classic case right there, what we're talking about, of not knowing what other people need in that scenario. It's yeah, you do need farm, but if I can help this guy win his lane and come straight back, it's going to be just as fine. You're going to lose out on maybe 200 gold, and that sucks. But yeah, it's better to know where you can help out in the general forum of what your team needs. And support players get access to that sooner because they know that that's their role, is to help other people and to understand that. But if there's a person who just plays carry all the time, that is that person that I'm talking about is the mindset that most of those people who just play carry have. They don't truly understand, oh, the game functions in this way, and I don't have to put it on my back necessarily. I'm just there to get to the late game, so that if we do have the ability to finish it, then we can go on from there. Yeah.
We both have a couple co-hosts that we may or may not know well that have that dynamic within their Dota being. I will say definitely, as a new mid player, I have to say, formerly I would have told you that support is the hardest role by far, and it's the best way to learn the game. But now that I'm not a support player, I can't eschew that opinion. So, I mean, if you're learning how to play Dota, learn on support, and then move to being a mid player, where the true glory is.
Sure.
Yeah, but no, I mean, in all seriousness, I would say, having gone through all the roles multiple times, my time spent supporting has probably been more educational than my time in any other role. And maybe that's just because, like, for the majority of my time with .p and like thinking deeply about the game and podcasting and talking to other people, it's been mostly as a support player. So I would say I've refined support more than I refined any other role previously. But I've always thought, like, when it comes to switching between roles and learning new roles and, improving other roles and stuff, as a support, there's something very educational about learning to do a lot with a little. And that's why I think learning as a support is so, there's so little room for error. And you have to really just you have to embrace the hero's strengths and weaknesses. Whereas if you're a core in many games, you'll just farm and then it's like, oh, well, I made a wrong item choice, but I'm so far ahead of the enemy core that, like, whatever. Right. Whereas if you're a support, it's like, okay, well, I have tranquil boots and that's it. So I'm going to have to do something. And then, if it teaches you all the little things about maneuvering, and you have to kite because, kiting with just tranquil boots and a windlace is very different than kiting as a jug with phase boots, vanguard, and a yasha, right? Like, so that's my little speech on learning as a support.
Do you think when you're switching positions, which, you, for instance, you went from playing the 5 to the 2, let's say, right?
Yeah. Well, arguably the 4 to the 2 or the 3 to the 2, depending on who on my team you ask, as far as farm goes. But yeah, I played support. Fafnir and I, so Flubb and I, when we were supports, it was more rigid that Flubb was the 4 and I was the 5. And then once we moved Flubb to mid and now me to mid, Fafnir is our support, and me and Fafnir switched on and off depending on the hero pick. So yeah, I was the 4/5 and now I am the 2. And Flubb the opposite.
I guess my question is, do you think when you're initially switching positions or thinking about, like, transitioning to a position, do you think you have an easier time going from, like, a single step in the farm priority to, let's say go from a 5 to a 4, or to, go from a 2 to a 1 or a 3 to a 2? You know what I mean? Or do you think it has less impact than you might expect, just going from, saying, all right, fuck it, I'm not going to play a 5 anymore, I'm going to play a 1?
I don't know if you'd agree with this, Flubb, since both of us have many, many years of supporting. Now I'm actually really thinking about it. There may be, I would say the easiest switch is probably from playing the 5 support to playing the 4 support, because they are so similar. Although they do different things, they work in tandem, right? The only, the 4 relies on the 5 just as much as the 5 relies on the 4. So you have to have intimate knowledge of both your teammate that's playing that role, or if you're talking about just in a purely pub-centric solo queue sense, you're going to know, like, all right, the 4 is going to roam because it's 2 minutes and he got bottom rune. So then, and that's you playing the 5. But then in the future, if you're learning 4, you're going to say, oh, it's 2 minutes and my partner, or I always see in pubs, or whatever, example you want to use, or every time I watch a pro game, yada, 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 you see, oh, the 4 is going to go gank mid because it's 2 minutes and it's a Mirana and he got a Invis rune. Well, right. So I'd say that's probably the easiest switch, is from 5 to 4. And then 1 to 2 is, or actually 1 to 2 and 2 to 1 are pretty close, although 2 has lane dynamics that did not exist so much in 1, unless you're on a team that plays a lot of 1v1 matchups in the safe lane. But switching, like, off lane, I feel like is completely different than everything. Although one could say that if you're a support, and, like, I play off lane so not often. It's, like, by far my least played role, other than jungle, which is not a role, it's an abomination. But I learned a lot as somebody who dabbles in off lane, since I'm a support player that has to deal with off laners. So in that, yeah, maybe it is a little bit easier to learn off lane if you are a 4 or a 5 player. But I mean, if you're a mid player and then you're moving one step down the priority to off lane, like, nothing. Like, sure, you might know, obviously, you know some things, but like, they're vastly different roles. So I wouldn't definitely say that moving up or down one step is necessarily easiest, but you know,
See, I believe it has to do with the patch as well. Like if you're going
That's
and you're
true.
looking at like each position has changed over the course of time so much. I would say that like at one point in time, mid was what you described mid being at your level, Cyphus. It was about before like at 5 minutes or before like the 5 minute mark, it was about running to the other lane, getting a kill, then going back to mid, farming up, and then just like constantly putting pressure on the map. That's what the 4 is supposed to do now. Whereas it was kind of before, the 4 was like usually the jungler trying to get like a get as much farm as like a lane presence, because the farm in the jungle had much more value back then and you could do it a lot quicker. So like as time moves on and all these positions morph and change, there's certain ones that definitely go into others. I think that everything that Ursi said is very, very close, but I also think that you develop a mentality for whatever position you play, and that mentality will like carry over throughout the years. For instance, I always talk about it. I'm a very aggressive player, and the 4 really benefits me right now because it's about shutting other people down. And if I feel like if there was if like 3 became that position, I feel like I would excel in that position, because that is my like my constant thought is, how can I keep the other team down? How can I give my team the space that they need to be able to farm, or give them these kills so that they can levy a tower out of it, or get just to get the maximum out of every single engagement. Whereas like I feel like Ursi is he's a little bit safer of a player on our team. He's not to say he's not aggressive. He knows how to move around just fine, but he knows the value of what he can get from a farming role. So that's like one of the reasons why we switched him over to the mid, because it's just not needed as much to be like that aggressive as a mid player. Whereas as 4, you can be that aggressive and you can get results. So I guess to answer your question, I would say like currently in this patch, I would say probably 4 to 3 or 4 to 5 is pretty easy, and then 1 to 2. And the only reason why I say 4 to 3 is actually something that can exist is that 4 used to be a jungle type person. And with the introduction to Iron Talon, knowing the roots of the jungle, knowing the way to truly maximize yourself across the map on movement, the PvE style environment is very, very useful. And I don't really see that going away for a while. So the old 4s are kind of moving either towards the 3 role or towards the 5 role. And I feel like the old 2s are moving to the 4, kind of like, and the thing is this isn't new. This is something that happens over the years constantly.
Yeah. I think Flubb actually raised a really good point where it's a lot more about the heroes that you play in a role versus the like different heroes for different players, right? So like using Flubb as an example, when we switched him over to mid initially, we didn't say, oh, play Invoker and Alchemist and stuff, right? We know, oh, Flubb is an aggressive player. He's coming from a 4-position support position, which, as he said, in the current and in the metagame as of like the last year or so, it's a very aggressive role, right? So we said, all right, you're going to play Bat Rider. You're going to play, these kind of aggressive tempo control mids, right? So, and it even this applies too to like 1 position and 3 position and 4 position and 5 position for all intensive purposes. So if you're switching from any given role to another given role, it's you're not necessarily going to suddenly say, I'm a 5 player and then play every single hero in 5. You're going to say, oh, well, I was a 4, now I'm a 5. So, or I was a 2, let's say, and now I'm a 5. So I'm going to play a lot of Rubik because he is a hero that's very attractive to core players because he is very like flashy and like he can do a lot of really impressive things and he works well with farm and works well without farm. So there are heroes that work particularly well for people transitioning from role to role. So, try to find heroes that that fit your style. Yeah.
Okay. So, we talked a lot about like switching roles, obviously, and how it pertains maybe within a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. You guys are both, part of Hakuna Marana. You play together a lot. But what about for the folks out there who are just pubbing, right? What do you think? So first of all, let's start with should people even be spamming one position whenever they are playing in a pub primarily, and almost never, let's say never with a team and rarely with a party?
I would say, anybody that's listened to the show for a while probably knows, but I'm pretty anti-spamming. That being said, there's a big difference between spamming a role and spamming a specific hero or couple of heroes. So I do think, using myself as an example, ever since whatever it was, Wednesday practice, and when we said, oh, Sam, you're going to be the mid player now, I first started relearning mid on comfort heroes, right? So, and that being Invoker and Alina. And then as the week progressed and as the coming weeks progress, I'll move into playing some of the mids that I'm comfortable on, but not necessarily super comfortable. So that being said, if you're in a solo queue type of atmosphere, and you're planning on learning a new role, if you're really dedicating yourself, you can be that person that's just like, yeah, instant lock safe lane every time. And it takes some gusto, to put it nicely, to be that kind of person. I hate being that person, but for the sake of learning mid, I've been being that person. But if you are only a solo queue player, yeah, you might have to just brute force your way into playing this. Like, I know the thing that our offlaner Skrunk does, he has an alt account that's just named offlane only. And that's what he goes to practice on. And his name is offlane only, and he instant picks to offlane. Or like Proud, when he was climbing MMR or when he's been honing a role, his name for a while was hard carry or feed. And, you don't actually have to follow through with the feeding, but it puts enough doubt in people's mind that they're like, all right, well, I guess he's going to be the hard carry, right? And, that's one way to do it. If you're learning a new role and if you're really dedicating yourself to doing that, go for it, right? But that being said, you do have to be at least a little flexible. So, because you don't want to be the type of person, whether even in the learning process, but you don't want to be, only playing mid and then, some other guy on your team is, let's say, named mid or feed. Well, then you're going to be disadvantaged if you say, oh, well, I'm learning mid, so I'm going to do that anyway. And then, you're going to have a bad time. So, within reason, spam a role if you're really trying to learn something.
I think
so.
I do think
maybe.
Sorry, go ahead.
So maybe recommend for a pubster to play, like we were talking, like, hey, if it's easier to go from a 5 to a 4 and you're wanting to spam a 5, well, be prepared to, do a 4 to a 5. Have a 4 in your back pocket so that you can easily kind of at least spam a range of roles, as opposed to maybe being in a position where you're too flexible, because I feel like I did that for a little while, where I was super flexible for a run of like 10 or 20 games, where I was just like, I'm just going to last pick and pick whatever the team needs.
Yeah, and it's always a support.
And it typically was a support, but there were definitely times where I found myself being like, oh shit, nobody wants to carry this match. Well, I know 2 carries, well, I feel confident on 2 carries, and one of them got picked and the other got banned.
Yeah. I think if I had to really condense it down to if I was to write rules for learning a new role, I would say, if you're really trying hard, just instant lock that thing. If somebody contests it, then play whatever role you're coming from. So using me as an example, if I want to be training on mid and spamming mid games, but I am previously a 4/5 player, if mid gets taken, don't say, oh, I'm going to play off lane. Say, oh, well, mid's taken, and I was practicing mid, but now I'm just going to play 4 or 5 because that's what I was playing. Or, if you are a one player and somebody steals your mid because you're trying to learn mid, right? Go back to the thing that you were previously playing, and then all is equal, and you just play Dota because Dota is fun, right? But that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. Is try to insta lock, but don't do like the classic thing where you're like, oh well, I clicked mid and you clicked mid, and then you picked Invoker first, but I'm dedicated to being mid, so I'm going to pick TA anyway and contest your farm, right? So don't be that guy, but be forceful. We all know the Dota community, right? You gotta, if you want to get your way, you gotta be like, all right, no, I'm safe lane, and click to Juggernaut immediately, and make other people deal with the problems.
See, my thing would be ideally have, like, if you're looking for a player who's pubbing and like trying to like teach them, okay, what's the best way to go into every scenario? Know 3 positions, and know multiple heroes in those positions if you can. It's a lot to ask of a player, but you're gonna have a greater success than if you just like demand one position. Because if you demand one position, you're gonna be in a situation that's just like a lose-lose situation. Probably, I wouldn't go as far to say every other, but it might be once every 3. Because personally, whenever I get into matches, I would say I have to mid or carry in probably at 30% of my matches, which I generally, before like transferring over to mid, I never really did it very often. And I wanted to keep it that way because I was very good at the off lane, I was very good at supporting, and I knew how to do both roles of support. So I generally just like stuck on those 3. I always said off lane or support, I don't care. And it got me a lot of success. That's actually when I was the closest to 5K. I like tickled it. I think I was like 5 points or 10 points away. That was when I was just playing off lane and the 2 supports. I've gotten a little bit more lax as time has gone on because I did transfer over to mid, and in general, I'm just the guy that doesn't like to argue with people. So for my personality, it's best to have a situation where I'm flexible, and then we move on from there. Because it is good to be assertive, but if that's not your personality, then you're just gonna not come off assertive, and people are just gonna walk all over you.
Yeah.
So, while I do agree with like everything Ursi has said, there is a healthy balance, and knowing who you are and what you're going to be capable of whenever you're like at the pick screen, to know how much authority you can command in that situation. And sometimes it's better if you really know how to support and you really know how to do, like, 2 roles. Maybe it's better to try to ask people what's going on, and see where they're going to go, and then if no one answers, then pick it first. Like if you're going to be a support, or like at least hover over it so people know what you're thinking of. Don't just like sit there and ponder while like you're not giving no information to your team. That always drives me insane as someone who's a flexible person. And I know that a lot of people within the Dota community just want to carry, but they like, I don't know, they're just like not paying attention or something. So I guess what my advice would be is to not only know the position that you have, but the position, if you have the time and you've had positions in the past, try to rehone those, understand what you can do with that. But if you haven't, if you're a new player and you're trying to like learn things new, try to like move away, maybe go to unranked a little bit, try to understand what you can do within the confines of that position, and then try to extrapolate it with more knowledge and understand what you need to have happen. Because I mean, you can always learn something new by playing the game in a new way. And even if that means like playing a hero that's kind of off, like for instance, I played sniper support a long time ago because I was like, well, shit.
I heard about that a little bit. Yeah.
But the only reason why I ever tried it was because someone like last picked another carry, and I was like, oh shit, well, I'm gonna try it as a support now. This is probably gonna suck. And I started to like it and started to enjoy it. So you can create new styles just by trying to be flexible. Um, and if you look at the game with that same like laid backness, then I think that's look at it as an opportunity instead of okay, shit, this game's gonna go bad. Just try to like maximize what you have in your arsenal.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah, I don't know. You saying that though, it brings to mind as a slightly off topic. But um, what do you guys advise doing for folks that are pubbing when you're in a situation where, let's say, somebody does first pick a sniper, and but they say they're going to run it as support. And let's say maybe you're like Ursinity and you think that, hey, that's a terrible idea, or nope, that's only going to work with this particular comp. Or more likely, we see a lot of like weird offlaners, I guess, in the 2K pubs.
Yeah.
That's because really the offlane. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but it's actually just another safe lane where you can farm another carry. And that's actually what you're supposed to be doing there. I just so you guys know. Just don't want anybody to miss out on important information. So say I'm in that position where, right now the team's got a mid. We have both of our safe laners, thankfully, and we have a support. Do I try to correct the off lane by forcing an extra support up there? Do I try to pick something that should be off lane to be there with him? Do I want to pick a Tide Hunter to run with that solo Spectre off lane? You know what I mean?
In that situation, I would generally pick an aggressive hero that can set the stage, or depending on who the random offlaner is, you could pick a hero that directly accents that. So like on the show before, on Theory Crafting Thursday, we ran Spectre Necrophos offlane, and it's this really like just run at you like two heroes that are hard to kill situation. So I would generally default to that, doing some kind of aggressive offlaner that is going to be able to save your random guy that insists on playing carry in the offlane, or is going to be able to set the lane up so that person can still get some semblance of farm. So somebody that is able to trade with the supports and say, hey, you're going to try to zone me, but your team has a jungler, right? And it's like a solo Dazzle or a solo Rubik or a solo CM. And yeah, sure, they'll try. And like, yeah, they would be able to zone a Spectre, but if they're zoning, but they can't zone a Spectre and a Necro, or a Spectre and an Undying or something like that, right? So that's my advice.
I would say for me personally, Cyphus, is that it's very similar to Ursi's. Don't compete with someone if you think that they're going to take farm, because if they're going to be trying to take your farm and then you end up that you're the better player and you take their farm, then they're just going to be upset and they're going to start doing drastic, dumb things that are going to get you both killed, or get people killed in other lanes, or take other people's farms in other lanes that need it. So I think that if you're like trying to help them out and pick another hero that can like punish the other side so that you can like push them away, something that I would suggest is like maybe like someone that's like super good early game if you feel like you need that, like Undying. Undying's like known as a incredible like first 15 minutes he's like unstoppable. So like if you can push people away and use that hero correctly to like gain something for your other guys, I think that really helps out. And I think that it's more about creating a environment where that person could thrive, because they created an awful environment for themselves to begin with. And that does rely a lot on that other person carrying or doing the right the right thing in that situation. So it's kind of like a catch-22. If the person's dumb enough to be in that situation, you don't really want to support that person being that dumb in that situation. But if you're talking about like trying to get your MMR up and trying to really understand, like trying to do something at the best you can out of a bad situation, I feel like it's better to support that person let them be them, because you're not going to change them, and just try to like get something yourself out of it. Maybe like pull off the side if you're like Radiant, or even Dire. Try to get like a pull off the off lane and farm a little bit from that. Try to get things that normally you couldn't be able to if you just let him die down there like 20 times.
Yep. All right. So on the switching positions topic, let's real quick before we wrap everything up here. Let's try to get like a real, I think, a basic example for at least a decent number of our listeners, and that is, so we're pub trash. We're, let's say, sub 3K minimum. We've been spamming a particular position. I think most people probably, with the exception of folks quite, like my Monday co-host Roland, who play everything, and but they only do it in the jungle. So, let's say you've been spamming a role. When I started, I started spamming support before I swapped over to carry. I had my own reasons for switching to carry. Say I'm a new player and I've only been spamming, this one position. Why should I want to change positions? Why should I want to switch positions? What should be the reason that I decide to switch positions? And how's the best way to go about handling it?
So I guess I'll try to. I wish I had like pre-prepared this question, because I'm sure I could write like a 5-point thing exactly, but alas, we are not in that situation. So, why you should switch positions? You should switch positions because the only way to truly learn to learn about what your teammates are doing and what the enemy are doing is to put yourself in their shoes, right? So it is. If you're unfamiliar with where support's ward because you never play support, then if you're playing a core, you're going to have a lot of issues running into vision because you're not thinking. You don't think, it's like 8 minutes, their first round of wards faded, their supports have never come to the off lane, so they don't have vision, which means I can abuse that. Right. So, but if you do play support, you're going to think, the wards are expiring in 6 minutes. So, I can stack and pull this camp that I would not have done otherwise, or whatever. So that's important as an example. Similarly, to get better at Dota, just in general, you have to play all the heroes to at least some extent. Obviously, everybody specializes, but you should want to play all the heroes, or at least a large majority of them. And the only way to do that is to switch roles around. And this is going to just improve your Dota skill overall, especially like game sense. Game sense is such a mysterious concept to a lot of people, and it's kind of an excuse that a lot of people give, like, oh, well, why is he better than, why is a 7K player better than a 6K player? Like, yeah, sure, their mechanical ability may be similar, but, the amorphous concept of game sense is usually the difference. And a very quick way to train your game sense is to be playing multiple positions and be putting yourself in a situation where you can't rely on the fact that you've played Rubik 1,000 times. So, it may be your first time playing, Invoker, but, you're going to have to think, oh, well, you're going to be training your game sense. And that also goes for both ways. Some people would say you learn game sense better by playing a hero that you don't need to worry about. Regardless, game sense is important, and you learn that by playing a lot of different heroes. And lastly, I'm sure I skipped one part of your question, but I don't really care that much. So lastly, the most effective way to train in a new role, by far, in my opinion, is spam the role, even if not necessarily a hero in that role, but play that role a lot. Start with your comfort heroes if you have any comfort heroes in that role. Like me as an example, I haven't been playing mid in any serious capacity outside of like much lower MMR pubs with random stacks. So I said, oh, well, even though I haven't been playing mid, I still play Invoker and Lina. And so I started and I eased myself in, and then I'll gradually work up to playing the mids that I'm not comfortable with. And that's just how I plan to learn the role, and that's how I've learned other roles previously when I've done switches. And as far as playing, if you are the kind of person that only plays solo, this isn't going to help you much. But I find learning a new role is best if you can play in a 5-stack, or at least in like a 3-stack or something, where you can tell the people before the game, like, oh, hey, I'm trying to learn to play mid, so I'm going to be playing mid. and then everybody can say okay, and then you don't have to fight with anybody, and they can kind of pick around it and know, oh well, he's starting at mid, so I'm going to pick a roamer and I'll be able to help him in mid, or oh, this person never plays safe lane carry, so he's not going to get a lot of farm, so I got to play a greedy mid, or I got to play a greedy off laner or something like that. Similarly, if you are like a higher MMR player and you play with lower MMR people, that is a good venue to train roles that you're not familiar in, because the average MMR of the game is just going to be lower. So that is also going to help you. That's another big piece of advice I would give is, if you're a 4K player, and it's going to be real hard to say, oh, I've never played carry before, but I'm going to start learning it if you're playing solo queue. But if you're that 4K player, or you'll learn it eventually, but you'll lose some MMR in the process. Well, if you're that 4K player, you could say, oh, talk to your 4 of your 2K friends or 3K friends. It brings the MMR average down, and then you can be more comfortable playing a hero you're not necessarily comfortable with. Yeah. Also, my last piece of info before Flubb explains his is, whenever you're trying to improve at Dota, especially in these times where you're learning new heroes and new roles, expect to lose MMR first, or just lose games, I guess, if games equals to MMR, depending on what you play. You're going to lose first, but it's all an investment in the future of your ability to play Dota. And as I've said before, if you're playing Dota, you're going to be playing for years. So it's a short-term investment.
Sometimes you invest in the stock market, and those stock prices drop a little bit, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come back up and rise.
Exactly.
Right.
Unless you're a bad stock.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a bad stock. I can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
All right. So real quick, Cyphus, can you recap the questions again?
Yeah. So you're the standard sub 3K pubster. You're primarily playing, let's say, solo. You get the occasional party ranked in, and I honestly suspect that this question can work for whatever your balance of party and solo is. But playing pubs, you're not playing on a team. You're semi new, or maybe just semi casual with the game, and you've been spamming one role in particular. We all know those people who have and like I said, hell, I was one of them. Where there's one role that you primarily play, and why should you want to switch positions, and how should you go about it?
Okay. Why you want to is because your position is not going to be if you're trying to be in the position that has the most impact, that's not ever going to be the same thing throughout the entire Dota career. Carries have had varying levels of success in the past, and there's certain strategies where you would just go straight push strategy, and a lot of times your carry was a Pugna, and you're not going to be very successful if you were a right click carry in that situation. Same thing goes as support. Support's been strong in the past couple years, but I don't know, the old stereotype of you suck, go on support is something that's been ingrained in us for I don't know, a super long time, because support didn't really mean that much before, because the game wasn't that fleshed out, and you didn't really know what a support was truly able to do. Obviously things get better over time. People understand the terms of stacking, warding, having that situation, but after a while, you understand more and more of what you're capable of when you don't have anything, or what you're capable of when you need to get something more out of a situation that's hard for you to get anything in the first place. So there's also supports are getting more damage. Support items are costing less, so it's not as draining from them. They're able to actually do more things like that. But overall, sometimes supports, they take a backseat. Sometimes the offlaner is incredibly important, and you need to know how that works. So if it's you're trying to stay in a position because you're comfortable with it, and because it's the most important, and you feel like you can carry your team on your back, then that's you shouldn't do that. You should want to expand, because you'll be more versatile, and you'll be able to adapt better to future patches, understand certain environments that are going to be created through certain heroes. understand what's possibly good in a patch. Understanding multiple heroes, understanding multiple roles will let you know, oh, this right here, this random thing that's in the patch, that is ridiculous, and I can't believe that that's in there because I could take advantage of that spell before. Now I can take advantage of it like 20-fold, because like the mana cost is lowered or it does way more damage now. Um, I guess your first question was why, and your second question is how, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how you switch is you look at at what you are capable of what you enjoy to play, of what you like to do. Um, so if I were to advise someone who was, let's say, really good at jungling, I would tell them, okay, what do you like about jungling? They would probably say that it's interrupted. I know certain process. I can like do it like a machine. A lot of junglers tend to listen to music a lot. That's something that they enjoy because they can be kind of in like a zen state and just like do something repetitive. It's kind of like the old WoW sense of being able to farm out certain attributes, whether it's like actually farming up your craft skill or whatever. It kind of has that same rhythm and rhyme to it. So like I would look at that, and then I would look at what else has a similar quality in that area, and I would advise them to either look at offlane, because you can go to the offlane, and the current meta, having the Iron Talon kind of opens that up. I would also tell them maybe consider safe lane as well, because if the supports do a really good job and they give you a lot of free time, it is PvE for the first like 20 minutes of the game, very similar. They generally are keeping everything at bay, and especially with how big the tri-lane mentality is as of late, I feel like it's a very similar position as that. And I mean, there's parallels through everything. If you look at the quality of being safe, being a saver, like being from a 5 role, like trying to play like Dazzle or something like that. I would actually suggest going into the tri lane. I'm not tri lane, the off lane, because if you go into the off lane, you can see that there's a lot of focus put on just trying to stay alive in that situation, and a really hard situation to stay alive in. And a lot of times, Dazzles, Omnis, things like that, they're the first ones you focus out. Those oracles, you want them down before they can have the chance to save, so they have to know where to position. So once again, a position 3 needs to understand where he can position himself to get farm or to get experience in general. So I guess just look at what you enjoy about Dota and move into the direction that you can see what another position has a similar quality, and try to like find common ground.
Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna take a stab at answering my own question here, and just say that the probably the best reason to try out different positions and switch positions is because it makes the game fun again. It makes it a little bit more fresh. It can reinvigorate, your love for this game if it's if that's something you're interested in doing. I definitely had times where spamming support. Like I look at my top most played heroes just even now on Dota Buff, and the top 25 heroes, I easily 75% of them are supports. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games on a support over the course of let's say I've had about 1,750 games ever in my life of Dota. And I'd say about 1,200 of those were supports. It was that many, and it was nice to go back. It was nice to start playing carry. It was nice to start switching things up. I found myself, and I think anybody who's still relatively new to this game, or maybe anybody who's still relatively casual to this game, understands what Roland and I talk about on the Monday show from time to time, where when we say we fallen in love with a hero. You get to do that every once in a while. You get to play a hero that maybe you overlooked on your initial run through them all. Or hell, in my case, I still think there are like 20 or 25 heroes I haven't played, like ever a match on. I've played enough against them. I've read enough about them that I always feel like I understand them. But even speaking to Flubb's point earlier, I'm sure that I probably would gain a lot more even just playing against them, just having a game on them. But being in that position, being able to kind of reignite an interest in a particular hero, reignites interest in the game. Or at least, I don't know if exacerbate is the right term here, but it feels like it can be with Dota sometimes. Because this, maybe the one thing Dota has really working against it most times is the unfortunate, are the unfortunate assholes that you're going to meet along the way. You're going to run into people that try to tilt you. You're going to have, for a plethora of reasons, which you'll hear dissected on every podcast here on DotP 1,000 times over, there are a million things that can go into why a particular game might end up sucking. Why you might end up having a miserable time for 45 minutes at a time. Swapping positions throws some variation in, and it was almost a relief swapping over to carry, because I found myself going into those games, and when I was having a bad game on a carry, because I hadn't played a carry really ever before, or hadn't really focused on playing a carry in the past, I could say, hey, sorry, learning a new role, learning a new hero, my apologies, still getting the hang of this, and I don't know. It definitely didn't feel. I didn't feel the stress that is usually associated with like maybe a game where you're playing a hero. When I think Lion is my top played hero. When I have a stressful game on Lion, it's maybe more stressful than it is playing any other hero, because I feel like I should be doing, or I should be out.
This is Cyphus for Ursi and Flubb saying good luck and Godspeed.
More than anything, a reason to swap things up is just to have a good time with this game. Not even to necessarily take things seriously or learn the game better, all of which are definitely benefits of doing it, but just to improve your own experience. So that'd be my 2 cents on the issue.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, if you're ever feeling bored of Dota, or if you're feeling like you're not getting better, do something new, right? If you're just doing, if you play every game Lion and you're not gaining MMR, or you're not feeling like you're getting better, probably try to do something else, right? It's very simple.
Definitely. So let's do one last minute for everybody here. Ursi, 1 minute. Anything you want to add to the topic for today's discussion?
Oh boy, not particularly. Again, I feel like this should be the weekly reference to the fact that unranked is good. And I felt physical pain when Cyphus on the Monday show was talking about his girlfriend that is just jumping right into ranked. And I mean, more power to her. But God, yeah, if you're learning new roles and you're the type of person that cares about your MMR, like you're only going to feel bad if you're losing MMR. So just play some unranked.
I tried to talk her out of it.
That's fine.
I told her I wish that I hadn't.
That's all right. To each their own, and that's why so many Smurfs exist, right? But
right.
Whatever. Anyway, that's my bit. Play unranked. Unranked is nice.
Yeah, agreed. I've been enjoying it more and more. Although I've been playing more at least party ranked lately with her.
Well, party ranked is like unranked plus.
That's how I felt. That's where I'm at now. Flubb, how about you, sir? One minute. Anything else you want to add?
I think that that when you are looking to ask yourself why you should be more versatile, I would say that that's a really silly question. You should try to always go into going into change and understanding what change can bring to the game. This game has never stayed the same, and nor will it ever. We're gonna be talking about this in 5 years, and people are gonna be like, oh my God, is that even like the same game? Or then it might be Dota 3 by then, and then it really won't be the same game. But when you look into what you're trying to do, don't get stuck in a certain mindset. A lot of times, even the pro players, even the professional casters, just people that are within the scene, they always talk about how well they've adapted to a certain meta or a certain patch, and understanding how everything fits together is general strategy. Understanding your opponent, understanding the potential that they have. And the only way to really truly do it is to experience it, in my opinion. Yes, you can read about it, you can watch it, and that'll give you leaps and bounds on what you need to accomplish. But without truly experiencing what you've already had, what other people have already had, you're going to be a step behind. So try every hero. That's a challenge I have for you, Cyphus. Try every hero before the end of the year, man.
All right, I will. I swear. I swear I'll play that Meepo game that I've been putting off for 2 years.
I mean, you won't enjoy that Meepo game, but
No, I don't.
That's all right. Roland said he's easy. It's fine.
Yeah, that's that's why the Monday show is the classiest show of the week.
I'm a big fan of unilateral, like very abrupt decisions and opinions that are said with just such confidence, even though it's completely like half true or not true or whatever. That's why I appreciate that in all my entertainment. So,
well, Roland is the king of that. So, all right, I'm going to close this out because it's Halloween when we're recording this, folks. But you're probably not listening to it on Halloween. I know you're not listening.
You most definitely are not.
You're listening to it most likely on Wednesday, which means tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, we've got the in-houses coming up with Mr. Groody himself, the Groot Man, the Groutster. How many?
Groucho Marx. I mean, I could list them off. I have a couple dozen different names from him in a book to my right. That is not a joke at all.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'll let you save the content for Theorycraft.
I was gonna say we call him a different name. Here, I'll pick one out.
Okay, that'd be great.
Let's see. Let's see which is a good one. I like Greuter. That's one. Or G-Bag.
G-Bag. G-Bag's the winner. So you guys should tune in tonight to see Mr. G-Bag himself in action. I'm sure he'll be dropping some sick in-house beats on us whenever we get there. So yeah, that's tonight on twitch.tv/.ptv1. If you want to join up with the in-houses, you can go to defenseofthepatients.com. You can click on the in-house ladder tab, or you can also just go to discord.gg/.p. That's our Discord invite link, our permalink, and that'll get you right to the Discord. I was thinking the other day about how we don't plug that enough. So hopefully you hung around still in the plugs. Hopefully you haven't shut us off yet, because this Saturday we're going to be doing the Extra Life stream. I forgot to plug that on Monday, I think. But Extra Life, for those of you who may not know, I'm sure you do if you've been listening to the show for a while, is a great charitable cause. They give to the Children's Hospital Foundation to basically provide kids with video games that are in the various sick wards. So it's maybe the coolest cause that you could have, and you get to play video games in order to support it. So we're going to be doing the Extra Life stream and trying to garner some donations and help our local hospitals, all the various .p show hosts. I don't think we've got a schedule fully hammered out yet, but maybe by Wednesday we will. We'll be posting information about it on Twitter, and as we get it developed, I'm sure you'll hear about it. Probably on Proudland is when we'll have the full schedule ready to go on Friday. So tune in to twitch.tv/.ptv to check that out. We're youtube.com/.ptv1 if you want to find our YouTube content. You can find Fafnir's replay reviews, the replay reviews that are going to be coming up from Patreon donations, which you can do through patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. And also over there on the YouTube, you can find the videos from Theorycraft Thursdays, which is coming up tomorrow with Ursi and Proud, and they're always doing a new combo, and they whether it goes good or it goes bad, they show you that video, they show you that game, and let you see how it went. So they put it to the test, which I admire. So, am I missing anything, folks? Any plugs? Any final things?
There's subreddit r/defenseofthepatients. That's it, though. And email defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. And right. Twitter, I'm at Ursinity. Flubb is at FlubbDota with 2 B's, and the show is at .p_show, and Cyphus is .p_Cyphus. Bam.
Yep. See how I like to drag it on. It might take a long time. Of course, he said he needed to go 5 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. So.
That's all right.
Just dragging it out a little bit more for you. Just really trying to make you.
All right. I'll tell the people in the car outside of my house that it's fine.
You just send them my address. Oh, and coming up, the Boston Major, Ursi, and Proud, we think are going to be there. We're waiting for word on press passes, but I think regardless, you guys will probably be in that area at the time.
We'll see.
We'll see. If
Well, I
we don't
mean,
get press passes,
yeah.
maybe not.
I may actually have to leave like right now. So let's press
All right,
passes. Are
sounds
nice.
good. All right, so stay tuned. Until next time, this is Cyphus for Ursi for Flubb saying good luck and Godspeed.